Oh my god, is it time for a new video? Hello ladies and gentlemen. Today we're gonna look at maps. I wanted to make this video for a while, but you know, up to this point I was like, yeah, maps are a difficult topic. Because talking about maps, you know, it's crucial for the ELC, it's crucial for every tank, to be honest. Huge part of the game, obviously. Probably like, I mean, everything revolves around maps, right? So yeah, I wanted to talk about this for a while, but like the issue is I didn't know how to do it without the topic taking like literally several hours to talk about. So yeah, now I came up with a solid plan, with a solid approach to make this video. So I really hope you guys enjoy that. But before we can get into talking about maps, I obviously have to yet again talk about my channel. So you know, what I'm really happy about is that the guide broke 700 views. That is amazing. So thanks a lot for that. I really appreciate it. It's cool to see. And all the videos with cool thumbnails are also getting more than the average amount of views. So you know, that's good shit. Good shit. Kind of unfortunate about this one. I have to rethink why my compilations don't get a whole lot of views. Maybe the thumbnail, you know. Once I started putting damage panels into the thumbnails and kind of clickbaity fucking titles, they've been getting more views. Yeah. And obviously guides also get views, so that's good shit. But yeah, do let me know, you know, give me comments. Comments are really good because for one thing, it's always good to know what the people are thinking. So let me know when you like shit. Let me know when you dislike shit. And it also helps me in the algorithm. So yeah, but enough about that. You know, if you want to help me, you know what to do. But like the most important thing is if you see people that clearly show interest in the tank, this is a ELC dedicated channel. So guide them here. Maybe they can take something away, which is, you know, which is the main thing that I care about. So how are we gonna approach maps? So the way I'm gonna do it, okay, I have clear cut ways that I judge maps by, okay? I've written down the points, the most important points that we judge maps with. And after I tell you about those, we're gonna look at examples. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into the rundown, okay? One of the biggest influences and arguably one of the most important points to take into consideration when judging a map is your ability to engage heavy tanks, especially early on into the battle. This might come as a surprise as this is not usually something that we really ever consider when playing the game, but thinking about it clearly, heavy tanks carry around the majority of the hit points. So when a map forces you to fight in a location isolated from the heavy tank brawl, it massively reduces the average damage you're going to do per battle. As you will come to see later, this fact by itself can massively improve my personal rating on otherwise mediocre maps, or massively dent my personal rating on otherwise great maps. Next up, two very important points that often lead into one another are flank design and the placement of cap circles. Here we're looking at flanks that are entirely unplayable for the ELC, making it so that with a lack of control over those flanks you also can't influence the outcome of the battle. It also doesn't help that most of the times those flanks are also where the heavy tank brawl takes place. On very poorly rated maps, those flanks usually lead straight into a cap circle that is absolutely impossible to defend. Having a cap circle that is easy to defend is incredibly crucial for carry situations. You don't have good DPM, so you need reliable shots into the cap. Very obvious points that instantly determine how good a map is are map size, the amount of hardcover and corridors. And I don't think that this needs more elaboration, as all of this basically entails how freely you can maneuver and traverse a map, as well as the availability of spotting positions. Especially the size of the map is important here. Having a large map is vital for carrying late game, as we are always looking to put distance between us and the enemies, giving us enough room to escape to when necessary. Where corridors make it easier for enemies to drive us into a corner, automatically denting all corridor maps in my personal rating. Points that you might not instantly take into consideration are low ground, how clustered a map is with random objects, and the average length of a battle on specific maps. Having to play in the low ground automatically puts you into a disadvantageous position. It is literally the metaphor of shooting fish in a barrel. This point is single-handedly the reason I gave the name Slaughter Pit to maps where a large part is essentially a valley. If you have ever tried to escape from a situation quickly, but all the clustered objects spread on a map made it borderline impossible to do so, you would know why I also decided to write that down as an additional point of interest. While object cluster isn't the most important argument to take into consideration, it is still the most mildly infuriating one. Whereas the length of the average battle on every specific map basically entails how quickly your leading momentum leads to the loss of the enemy team, or vice versa, how quickly the leading momentum of the enemy can snowball into your team collapsing. This basically correlates to your tank's bad DPM. The faster a battle is over, the less time you have to make your bad DPM work. And lastly, another massively important point we are going to keep in mind is the amount of broken positions that we can abuse with the DLC. Positions that can instantly turn a game into an ace tanker, or positions that can turn a shit game into a good one, and positions that can turn around battles into your favor. So let's look at some maps. The first map we're going to look at is Kelia. As this map is a perfect example for what you get when you combine the ability to engage heavy tanks early with a flank that the DLC can easily abuse. That being the southeastern flank. From there you will have an easy opportunity to spot and shoot tanks driving to the hill without revealing your position, as well as completely outspot enemy heavies hugging the corner. In the case where you win control over the hill, you have an easy access to an advantageous high ground position, as well as opportunities to continuously abuse the flank's layout to drive off remaining enemy heavies. In the case where you lose the flank, you can fall back to your base, which, guess what, is also high ground, giving you an advantageous position you can use to defend from, forcing your opponents to traverse a lot of ground before even getting to you. The rest of the map is fairly open and easy to traverse, without a whole lot of clutter, making Kelia a perfect late game carry map. And with all of that taken into consideration, I decided to move Kelia from the top of A tier to the bottom of S tier in my personal rating. But while we're at it, let's also compare Kelia to another map that I previously had in my S tier ranking, but decided to demote to the top of A tier. Westfield is for all intents and purposes another amazing map. It is large, wide open, has plenty positions that you can easily abuse with the DLC, a lot of which give you early shot opportunities without having to worry about revealing yourself. Adding to this that just like Kelia, both sides are equally balanced, giving no real advantage to a specific spawn. And the fact that both bases are easy to defend. Furthermore, Westfield is known for its potential in late game carry situations. It frankly sounds like the perfect map. So why then did I decide to demote it to the top of A tier? For the exact opposite reason that Kelia excels. Not only is there heavy brawl taking place on the exact opposite side of the map, it is also the far more important flank to secure yourself the win. You couldn't be any further away from the majority of the hit points if you tried. This fact usually leads to two outcomes. If your allied heavies win, the enemy team collapses within seconds, making it impossible for you to get any significant damage numbers. If your heavies lose, brace yourself for the carry of your life, or lose as you will automatically be driven into the southeastern corner of the map with triangles sitting and waiting for you to get spotted. It doesn't help that in carry situations having to traverse an entire valley to swap flanks is a complete detriment. Furthermore, the same foliage that helps you against enemies can become your worst nightmare, as the map also features plenty of positions where it becomes impossible to dig out the enemy triangles from. With all those facts taken into account, I decided to demote Westfield to the top of A tier. The battle that just played in the background wasn't exactly an optimal example for the arguments that I just made. So let's see what happens when there are actual heavy tanks in play. So far we covered two amazing maps, so it's finally time for us to glimpse at the polar opposite side of the spectrum, starting with let's check all the boxes. It's a small map. It's almost entirely impossible to engage heavy tanks early. Positions that we can abuse? None. It's almost entirely made of hardcover and corridors. The bases on ends are entirely impossible to defend by yourself. Late game carry potential? Also none. And even the average battle length is extremely short. Ends is in our case the poster child for ELC Nightmare. Ends is so bad that it winds up usually being the first choice when it comes to banning a map outright with the ELC. There's nothing else to really recommend here. There's also no grand strategy to this map. Play it as you would and hope that you can get at least a few shots in before either team collapses. Winning is entirely dependent on the heavy brawl, so you might as well try to support your heavies like our friend did in this example battle. With all of that being said, Ensk deserves its spot as the second worst map in my personal... Wait, second worst? What the fuck? Yes, you heard right, there's a map in the game that somehow ended up being even worse than that. For all intents and purposes, Ants should have had this comfortably in the bag, and for the longest of times, it was considered the worst map on my personal rating. But that changed in July of 2021, when Wargaming announced the release of patch 1.14.
It changes to the vehicles and several enjoyable new features.
A Japanese map.
Safe Haven is an excellent test of your tactical abilities.
I have to be honest with you guys. If we were to judge both Ants and Safe Haven purely by the points that I listed, Ants would still be the worst map. As Safe Haven is larger, at least tries to feature positions where you can get height advantage on opponents, and has vastly longer lasting battles on average. So be it as it is, I did end up ranking Safe Haven lower, purely out of spite for this map. The fun factor matters and no other map infuriates me to the extent that Safe Haven does. But don't get me wrong, even objectively speaking, this map is garbage. The southern flank that you have to play on is completely isolated from the heavy flank, which yet again is the more important flank to win, as it leads straight into what I consider to be the absolute worst cap circle in the entire game. The second you lose the city, the enemies will always push straight into an impossible to defend cap circle, making it so that you have to give up your southern corner and your height advantage in order to reset the base, where resetting is entirely impossible without trading your hit points. Add to this the fact that the second you and your teammates shift your attention towards your base, it is only a matter of time until the opponents from the southern flank will also start putting pressure on you. This usually makes it so that you are completely pushed into a corner without any chance of pulling back the battle. But what if you try to simply win the southern flank before the city loses? That is optimally what you want to do, if only this wasn't yet another perfect example for a garbage stale flank design, where all that is happening is the triangles of both teams staring into the abyss, waiting for the first player to mess up and get spotted. If you are trying to push the low ground under the bridge too early, you risk getting YOLO'd by all the mediums and lights on the enemy team, ending the battle before it even started. So what about playing the center? The center has only limited shooting potential, adding to this that it is a semi-slaughter pit. If you try to do anything there and get spotted, all the board players from the southern flank will instantly try to get a piece of your hit points. Safe Haven is not only boring, but also extremely infuriating to play. Even the fact that battles last a little longer on average, which on every other map is a good thing, sucks on Safe Haven, because it extends the amount of time that you have to waste here. On Ensk, the short battle length is a good thing, because the map puts you out of your misery quickly. If at the very fucking least Safe Haven at least looked more Japanese, like Hidden Village did, so you could at least have a nice scenery to stare at. But no, it's just as bland as the most average summer map would be. And lastly, just to put into perspective how bad this map is for our favorite tank, even finding current patch footage was completely impossible. With the worst map taken care of, I won't end this video without talking about what I consider to be the best map for the ELC also. And the choice should be pretty obvious, all things considered. It could only be either Prokhorovka or Malinovka. Well, if you think so, you might be in for a little bit of a surprise. The ELC and Sand River are a match made in heaven. Sand River is what happens when the most broken positions for the ELC winds up being not just a position, but an entire flank. This map's K-line by this point has become a meme within my circle of friends that showcases just how fundamentally broken the ELC can become, given the right map layout. But let's start from the very beginning and go over just why this flank is detrimental to making this map arguably the best one in my personal rating. And to do that, we have to look into the higher tiers first.
When you're on the Sand River, if you have issues with this map, the first thing you have to do is kind of check the enemy team for EBRs, because the number of EBRs that the enemy team have will impact your ability to play the south, which is where I always go on this map. I see way too many mediums taking their tanks to the north of this map. The north is fine only in 3RD situations. In every other situation, you're pushing through funnels, and it never works. This map has a huge advantage in the south if you're on the eastern spawn, and that's why you want to come over here. As you can see, the enemy team is pushing through the north, and so if you look at the map, I'm going to pause it because this is a tutorial type video. When you're in this situation pushing in, you have to go quickly depending on what you see on the other side of the map. So when you look here, standard B UDA's pushing in. These players are not really ever going to win the north. If they are, you have to push the south quickly. But because we've got a Foch B, a 50 TP, a Grill, Leo PTA, who are all in close proximity, like they're totally capable of defending this funnel right here. If a standard B and a UDIS decide to push through, we're totally fine. Ultimately, I failed. The T-49 gets the kill. However, because all their top tier tanks are out of this position, we're then going to win a really important spot. And if you look at the map right here, you can see we're still in no rush. The enemy team is getting halted up at B0 because we've got a Foch B, a 50 TP, and a standard B who are all dealing with that. So I'm pushing in for damage. I don't need to go back to base. I don't need to do anything special. It's just playing this position, and that's exactly.
In any case, this guy ends up staying over here for the next 3 or 4 minutes, and yeah, he never comes over to YOLO me. So we take 2 shots from him there, and that's it. That's the only damage I take. Basically the whole rest of the game until the very, very, very end, guys. So you're going to see me just trying to get everyone to clean up this FeldschER Model 75. Like, that's what we have to do. We have to clean this guy up. I'm in a very aggressive area right now. These guys could push in. Someone could push in and come over this ridge line, but they're all being passive, right? And this is what I like to do. I really like to risk it for the biscuit on this map every time now, and I come to this area. Eventually, Foch is going to come up and over here and go after the Model 75. And that's what I'm looking for. This guy threw away basically his whole tank to do this. But now I can poke up. Like this guy's play almost, it could have very well won us this game. Here, I don't see anybody. I'm continuing to poke. And we're at 1200 spotting now, 2000 guys. The Leo 1 takes a hit. And we're spotting the STRV. We're getting more spotting. We're spotting the KPZ. Getting more spotting, and this is why South is so freaking important on this map. Like, if you take nothing else from this video, just know this is why South is important, guys. It's 3-3, it's a close game, right? But we're going to be able to take advantage of this team now because I'm able to basically spot the entire south side of this map and win us this side of the map. Rhino's getting whacked here. I'm trying to get
up here where he can get some initial spots on people crossing, but something happens here. There's a bush right in front of him that he could, and look what happened. There's a bug flying. Look what happened. And he says, retreat, change of plans. He's bailing. He said middle first, but he got out detected. There's an enemy AMX 1390 on the enemy team, only one other light tank, there he is. Sand dune area and the northern sand dune area. And this guy is going to show us how to do some amazing spotting assist without bushes. And he's careful, and he understands the spotting mechanics in this game, and he understands the concealment of his tank, and he understands how it works. Now look where he is. There's no bush here. Even though there's no bushes, you have to use your brains and understand how the spotting system works. And he is going to do some monster spotting. He knows now that D75 is getting close. D75 is 208 meters away. And he did not get detected. Now, if he fires his gun, it's a different story, okay? But he knows that his tank is so stealthy.
So let's summarize what basic knowledge we just took away by looking into the higher tiers and then see how this translates into mid-tier. For one, it is obvious that the southern flank is the keystone to increasing your chances of winning. Not only can you completely outspot anyone with a stealthy light tank, given that there's no foliage that the enemies can hide behind, you can also easily spot the center if you have 445 meter plus view range, and get plenty of easy shots using advantageous high ground provided by the numerous dunes. The northern flank is never something that you have to worry about, due to how winning the northern flank is met with the fact that you would have to push into a lineup of triangles that are camping next to the base. Speaking of which, resetting the base is extremely easy from the southern flank and simply impossible from the northern one. And if we take all of that into consideration and translate it into mid-tier, with our choice of vehicle being the single stealthiest mobile tank destroyer available, you get a broken mess of a map, where even getting a first class is considered bad. With the lack of foliage, you outspot every opponent that you can meet. You are only in rare cases not the first person arriving on a K-line, meaning that you can shut down the entire flank almost instantly. Slower tanks trying to make their way down that flank usually get spotted and die. And once K-line is completely secured, the battle is over. You can abuse your camo rating and the available dunes to poke up, take shots, and fall back into cover instantly. Which means that opponents rarely have the chance of even catching a glimpse at you. Add to this the complete lack of corridors and hard cover, and the fact that it's easy to traverse the map, making it perfect for late game carrying. The only way to mess up on Sand River is by not going to the K-line at all. With that being said, let me just highlight that playing the center early is completely useless. The few tanks that you will spot on the cross are tanks that are heading to the K-line, which you would have spotted anyway if you had just gone there to begin with. Adding to this that there has never been a situation where allies are even in a position yet to shoot the crossing opponents. So what's the point? Go to the K-line and lock it down with your presence. Fight for it if that's even necessary at all, as in mid-tier the average player wouldn't even know about its value. The only way to even stand a chance of losing is if RNG literally makes it impossible for you to win. Sand River, with its lack of foliage and corridors, its late game carry potential, and what is arguably the most broken and easily abusable flank for the ELC, makes this my choice for the best map currently available. Yo, what's up? Unscripted rage here. I hope you liked scripted rage. You know, I wrote like 4 to 5 pages. 4 to 5 pages of script, so I hope you guys appreciate that. Yeah, the video winded up being more work than I anticipated. If you do appreciate that, you know what to do. Other than that, do keep in mind that was like my opinion, right? This is not the definitive map ranking. In my opinion, like ranking maps in general isn't exactly clever or necessary because everyone has their own experiences. And again, if you like playing on a certain map, it can be the worst map in the world and you would probably still rank it higher than I would, right? So do keep that in mind. But for me personally, this is the way it is. But you know, those were 5 maps out of 40 to 50. So if you guys want me to make another video with the same format, covering more specific maps that you can request, I'm down. Sure, why not? So if you do feel like requesting me to look at a certain map, drop it in the comments or just join our Discord. Links in the description. And with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. See ya.